We're talking to Professor Jack McDevitt of Northeastern University's Institute on Race and Justice. Professor McDevitt is speaking to us from the American Society of Criminology meeting in New Orleans, Louisiana, November 2016. He presented one of the nation's foremost studies on hate in 1989 on a typology of hate offenders, and he's going to talk about that with us today. Thank you so much, Professor McDevitt.
It's a pleasure being with you, Brian. The original typology had 4 categories, and we looked at what was motivating the offenders in hate crime to commit those crimes. And what we found was that at that time, in the 80s, there was the majority of hate crime offenders were doing it for thrills. They were doing it for the fun of it. It was kicks and fun, and one of the things that we found was that individuals were going on a Friday night, they were beating somebody up because they were gay or because they were Latino or because they were black, and it was for fun. And that was the majority of hate crimes. The second category we found was hate crimes that were defensive. In other words, that they thought that their neighborhood or their workplace was going to be taken over by individuals, and they wanted to protect that, and they felt they had to defend their turf. And so that was the second group. The third group was retaliatory, and that was somebody had attacked someone from your group, and now I'm going to get somebody back. There's a classic case in New York where individuals, a group of white individuals took a black kid and white shoe polish on his face. And then a bunch of black kids did that to white kids over the next few days. And we saw that sometimes hate crimes generate a retaliatory. And then finally, the most infrequent and the most dangerous are mission offenders. And we call them mission because their mission is to rid the world of people who they think of different. And this is a small number, but it's generally people who are really infused with hate groups, hate associations, and they're part of white supremacists or skinheads or a whole bunch of different kinds of groups, Christian identity, and they really have given over their life to hate. There's a small number, but they tend to either commit really violent acts or motivate others to commit violent acts. Now, the interesting thing has been that we've seen over time a shift from lots of people doing thrill crimes to more defensive crimes, and more people who see that they're losing something from the American pie, that they're going to lose their piece of the American pie. One of the things that we're seeing with this new election, though, is a shift back where people think it's just fun to beat somebody up because they're different than who you are. And that's one of the things that we're really worried about, is that it seems to be an increase recently in thrill hate crimes saying, hey, look, people are different and we're just going to go ahead and attack them because they're different. And I don't go to white supremacist websites, I'm not part of a skinhead group, but I think it's fun to be able to go after somebody just because they're different than we are. And now we have our leader in the White House, and it's okay for us to go after people that he doesn't like.
Can you tell us how stereotypes play a role with regard to being a trigger switch, as Dr. Williams from Cornell spoke about, directing who is an appropriate target of aggression, and the depth of prejudice for each of these groups and how easy they would be to deter with criminal penalties?
Yeah, sure. I think that stereotypes are a huge key to how this does it, whether it's unconscious bias or conscious bias that we're talking about. And we're talking about both in hate crimes. Sometimes it's unconscious bias that moves us to do what we do, and sometimes it's conscious bias. But they are triggers, and we start to see people, what we're seeing in this election recently is that people who feel that they've been left out of the American dream, who they don't have a future in this country, are looking for someone to blame. And President Trump has given them those people to blame, whether it's immigrants or women or African Americans, that he said, the reason that you're in a bad place is because of these people, and you need to just sort of take care of these people, and once we go ahead and do something to them, your life will be better. And so it's a compelling narrative for a lot of people.
Can you tell us what the future portends then, when we have a leader who, whether or not he's prejudiced or not, is regarded by many as having given some kind of approbation for negative stereotypes against various groups?
The future is really not good. I think that unfortunately it's a small number of people who listen to this stuff and who will act on it, thank God. but those people are going to be empowered, and they're going to be empowered by a large number of folks who are going to say, listen, if we go after this group who he doesn't like, meaning Donald Trump, no one's going to care. Think about this for a second. If you think about immigrants, and if you believe that all the immigrants are going to be deported, why would you not want to attack them? They're going to be gone. They're not going to testify against you. So it's really important to think that the messages we're sending about who matters in our society and who doesn't matter are really important in terms of generating hate crimes, and if the message is sent correctly, stopping hate crimes.
What do you think of proposals to add groups like the homeless or law enforcement to hate crime statutes, as law enforcement has been added to hate crime statutes here in Louisiana?
I think it's a good thing to do. I think we got to figure out how to do that. The law enforcement one, I'm less in support of, because they tend to be groups that can take care of themselves. Homeless is obviously a vulnerable group and would be good to include. Also, people who are mentally ill. Those are a group that gets sort of caught up in the American with Disabilities Act, and they get attacked, and we don't have a good way to protect them. So I think we have to always be on the lookout for which groups are being targeted and how our justice system can step forward to protect those groups.
Could you just define for us prejudice and stereotypes?
Well, prejudice is preconceived notions about what a group is going to be. It's not necessarily bad. It's something that we take with us. Stereotypes, again, are a function of who we are as people. We try to group things together, whether it's chairs, whether it's people, whether it's animals. We group them together. This is a chair. This is, if it looks like this and has this many legs, this is a person. This is an African American person, and then we infuse them with qualities that we've learned from the media.
And briefly, could you tell us about implicit stereotypes or implicit biases?
Sure. What we've learned in psychology over the years is that we all hold implicit biases. We have biases that are things that we hold and we keep to ourselves. We don't even know they're there. You know, it's something we learn from the media, or we learn from our families, we learn from a variety of places. And it colors the way we react to certain situations. There's great stuff about, how police will react in different situations vis-a-vis what they see as their implicit biases against a certain group. So in one test that was done, police were asked to draw and shoot in different scenarios. And what they found was that they were too quick to shoot in scenarios involving African American people, and equally important, too slow to shoot in scenarios involving white people who had guns and were going to shoot them. So what we had to do is tell police officers, you have to get aware of your stereotypes so that you can protect yourselves, because you're going to get killed if you don't take the real threat seriously, and so that you don't hurt individuals who are innocent but they happen to not look like you.
Last question, can you tell us a little bit about data collection and how different states vary widely with regard to the hate crime data they produce, as well as the vagaries that exist in data from advocacy groups that might include everything from criminal to non-criminal?
Yeah, there's a variety of different data collection mechanisms in the United States. None of them are good. They all have flaws. Probably the largest one is the FBI data collection system, hate crime data collection system, and that gets the most police agencies to participate, and they share their data. But what we find there is lots of people report zero hate crimes, lots of agencies report zero hate crimes, and they need to understand that, if you're a small town, you might have zero, but if you're a big town like Indianapolis or in past years, New Orleans, you're not going to have zero hate crimes. And so you have to understand that this data is flawed. We also have the National Crime Victimization Survey, which finds a lot more hate crimes, but can't get estimates at the local level. And then you have advocacy groups data like the National Gay Lesbian Task Force or the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, who collect data from their groups and have better data from local jurisdictions, but it varies widely across the country. So none of our data sets are accurate.
But how do we account for the vast chasm between the Bureau of Justice Statistics victimization surveys and the reported hate crimes to the FBI?
Well, that's because it's a national estimate from victims, and there was no investigation done. So we aren't able to say that the National Crime Victimization Survey is accurate it finds many more crimes, and I think it's more accurate than the FBI, because the FBI data reflects local police departments who are trying to say, how do we, you're gonna have to report, but you're also gonna have to go testify in court, and a lot of people won't wanna do that. So the National Crime Victimization Survey gets people who don't worry about that, but they also might get people who mistakenly thought that they were targeted because of particular race or ethnicity, and they can't do any more.